everybody, today I'm going to be talking to you about improving your squat patterning. So the squat is a very popular movement, one of the most popular out there, one of the most functional out there, and it's a very dynamic and technical movement as well. So we're going to go over a few different areas of the body because those tend to be areas where you should be looking as far as movement quality and improving movement patterns. The ankle and the foot, the hip, and then also the back and the shoulders. So those are going to be the three areas, basically your ankle, your hip complex, and your what's called your thoracic spine slash pec region. So these three areas, when they're overly tight or constricted from a lot of sitting that a lot of us tend to do, it can make squatting very, very challenging. So the first thing I would suggest when you're doing a squat pattern or any kind of mobility pattern for a squat is a simple test retest. So that's exactly what it sounds like. At first you want to test your squat pattern, then you want to perform the mobility patterns, and then you want to retest the squat pattern to see how the mobility patterns worked for your movement. So obviously if you test and then retest and it feels easier, you notice that you're getting a little deeper, there's less discomfort, that's probably a good indication. If for any reason the squat doesn't feel any better, or for any reason you feel like it's in more discomfort, that probably means you might want to assess what kind of mobility patterns you're doing. So I'm just going to start off with a basic squat pattern. So a test pattern for myself. Usually you could do an overhead squat, meaning you would reach for the ceiling. My arms are actually hitting the ceiling, so I'm just going to get into like an arms forward pattern. You're going to get feet wider than your shoulders, slightly wider than shoulder width, and they're allowed to slightly rotate out on you. So all we're going to do is have feet here. We're going to have hands in front, and you can squat down. So that is my pattern. That's a forward pattern. I'll do one from the side. So again, feet a little wider than shoulders, arms in front, squat, and stand. So this is before a workout for me. So my knees feel a little cranky, especially my surgically repaired knee. So this will be good for me to do. And what I'm going to do is start from the bottom up. So I'm going to give you basically two stretches per region. So your foot and your ankle have a lot to do with how your squat looks, especially at the bottom. So your foot and your ankle, a really easy way to stretch out your calf and ankle region is just a long staggered stance calf stretch. So reach your hands onto a wall, plant your back foot to the floor, drive your hips forward while keeping your heel in contact with the ground. And what I mean by that is my back heel. So you should get a really good stretch on your lower leg, your calf region. Usually hold for 30 to 60 seconds. You can switch them up. Same concept. So we're going to keep these pretty basic, pretty traditional today, but we're in a long staggered stance calf stretch with the focus being heel down on that back leg. Okay, so that is a calf stretch we can do. From there, we can also work your ankles in a little bit different pattern. So there's two ways to do this. So you can get into a half kneeling stretch, which I'm going to show you next anyway. You can drive your knee forward. And what I'm essentially doing here is I'm pushing my knee towards the center of my foot. So I'm kind of moving towards the middle of my foot, even towards my pinky toe. What you don't want to do is let your knee collapse inwards. All right, that inward collapse is going to be accentuating bad posture on a squat pattern. So ideally on a squat, our knees are tracking with our feet. So if our feet are turned slightly out, our knees are moving slightly out as well. So you can go from a forward profile, driving your knee. You can also go from a side profile. So this is called an open half kneeling stretch, which is this pattern here. So my hips are square towards the camera. My knee is tracking off to the right. So then I'm going to drive my foot in the same direction. So I'm driving my knee towards the outside area of my foot, meaning like kind of like my middle toes or my pinky toe. In this case, I'm getting that same ankle mobility pattern, but I'm also getting an increased stretch in my adductor muscles, so my groin muscles, which are important for squatting. So same concept, I'll do this one a little bit more accelerated. So I'm forward, I'm gonna drive my knee towards the center / outside of my foot to accentuate good posture on a squat. Do a couple of those. And then I will open up, so open half kneel, so I stay square, knee stays open, and I'm going to drive my knee this direction. So getting the stretch here, also getting the stretch down in the ankle. Same parameters around this stretch. I'm gonna be heel down, heel in contact with the floor. And you'll notice here I'm in socks. So actually doing this barefoot can be really, really helpful to give you an idea of how your actual feet move without support. So that's what I would suggest doing when you are assessing your squat. It's okay to squat with shoes on, but assessments can be really helpful to go barefoot. So that's your calf and your ankle. Now the hips, there's lots of ways to stretch out the hips. I just referenced it already, but your half kneeling hip flexor stretch, I've referenced in other videos as well. You just get yourself into a half kneel, meaning your back foot is behind you. All right, just like this. So about 90 degrees back leg, 90 degrees front leg. Tuck your hips underneath you. You'll feel a stretch up the front side of your thigh. So stay nice and tall. Don't need to lean if you're maintaining this posture correctly. And you just hold the stretch. Similar to the calf stretch for 30 seconds at least. And then we would switch sides. So we'll go right knee, left leg forward. This time I'll show you a forward profile. Tuck the hips underneath you, hold the stretch. We're feeling the stretch up the thigh here. So this is a really pretty simple one to do. It's generally pretty friendly on most joints. Good idea to put a towel or a cushion or a pillow or a pad underneath the knee. So we get the stretch there. Nice, easy way to open up the front sides of your hips. If that doesn't feel like much, or you feel like you can tolerate a little more, get yourself to a couch or anything that can, or a bench. Obviously, if you're in a gym, put your foot up. We're going to have the foot kind of sitting, resting on the edge of the couch. You're in the same similar stretch. Tuck your hips underneath you. That'll give you a much bigger stretch, basically from the hip region I pointed to, but all the way down to the knee as well. So that's going to stretch the entire front side of your thigh. So you hold that for around 30 seconds. You do not need to do all of these stretches. I'm just giving you some kind of little variation between what you can focus on. So again, similar, tuck the hips, get up nice and tall, hold the stretch. This one will be relatively intense. And again, if you have any kind of knee pain, or previously surgically repaired knees, I would start on the regressed version first, where the knee is not, the foot is not elevated. All right, so we would hold that once we're done that stretch. That's just a couple for the hip and the foot and the ankle. To finish here, I'm just going to show you two basic ones for the upper body. So your thoracic spine as well as your pec region. So your pecs, everyone talks about like a pec fly. We're going to try and stretch and open up that area of our back and our shoulders. So if you have a foam roller, great. If you don't, you can use pillows. I would suggest lying down. I'll show two profiles here. Lying down in a side plank position, but you're not on your elbow. You're going to drive your knee up and you're going to hold it down with your bottom arm. Okay, so from this position, you only have one arm that's free. We can reach in front, rest our head on a pillow, and we take a deep breath in. And as we rotate, we're going to rotate. I'm going to start to get to a sticky spot here where it feels a little tighter, and I will exhale. And then after I'm finished that rep, I'll return, take another deep breath, start to rotate, get to my tighter spot, and exhale. You can do a few of those reps like this, and once you get your third to fifth rep in, I would suggest staying down. So get your exhale, and then move your arm in a large pattern, moving up and then moving down towards the low back. So this can really get some good shoulder mobility on top of this thoracic spine stretch now. So you're combining stretches essentially. So this one feels fantastic. It can be a little intense from the start. So I'll show you now. I'm going to rotate towards you. Excuse me. All right, so now what I'll do is show you from a side profile. My knee should be high enough to be in line with my belly button. So that's why I'm showing you this angle here. And I'm going to rotate towards you to show you the angle. So let's call this one my fourth or fifth rep. As it gets tighter, I'm going to exhale. So now I'm down on the floor. We're going to move up, kind of overhead, and then down, tracking towards the low back. So you're kind of making like a half of a windmill. That's what this pattern looks like, okay? So that is all about your thoracic spine, and that last portion where you add the rotation is for your pec region as well. So you'll feel both of those working, opening up the back, opening up the shoulders. The last stretch in this one, again, is another one I probably demoed when I talk about anti-sitting posture, is simply standing up, finding any kind of stability along a door frame. So in this case, I can hold the side of our door. I'm going to step with my right foot forward. My right elbow is going to be 90 degrees. And real simple, I'm just going to lean into this pattern. Okay, this would be good going through the door frame as well. But all we're doing is right arm, right leg, lean forward. That's going to give you a big stretch right in this region of your pec. Okay, simply put, you would just do the other side. And then after you do that stretch, as we're holding for about 30 seconds, at that point, we've done 3 different areas of the body focusing on a stretch that should improve our squat mobility depending on where your restrictions lie. So real simple now. We just get into our position. My feet are a little bit wider than my shoulders. They're slightly rotated out. Arms are in front. Okay, so it feels easier. Not trying to do any kind of camera magic here. An overhead squat would give you more information, but like I said, my ceiling's a little low here. But generally speaking, my hips just feel easier to move. It feels like my ankles are more loosened up, so you can generally squat a little bit deeper. So I hope that video was helpful. If anything like resonated with you, or where it's like, yes, I definitely know I have tighter ankles, or I've had plantar fasciitis, or I've had an ankle injury. Chances are you'll probably need to spend more time on that area and maybe a little bit less on the others. If you sit a lot, I would be addressing your hips. I'll probably do another video on just hip mobility because I'm only scratching the surface. And aside from that, start with patterns you're comfortable with. Squatting does not have to be with a bar on your back. It can simply be body weight like I'm just demoing right now. When you start to feel comfortable, then maybe you're adding weight in front of you. And then from there, we can start to talk about progressions into the heavier stuff and the more bar style squatting. So wonderful pattern, very functional. You'll need it for the rest of your life. I hope that video was helpful, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.